Thank you for being here. I know that you have plenty of other things that you could do. So thank you. This is going to be an interesting experience. Yes, we are operating in a webinar portal. So for those of you who are new to that, you may chat with each other amongst yourself in the chat room. Please refrain from asking me questions there because as you can see, there's already almost 150 people here. So the chat just goes by so quickly, I can't keep up with it. You'll notice in the bottom center of your screen up underneath my face, the questions and answers folder. It just says Q&A. That's where you can go ahead and load up your questions. I only ask that you refrain from making the questions incredibly personal because it's not me who chooses the questions that they answer. It will be the beings that we're channeling, and they prefer to make them a little bit more general to what we're all looking to know. Many of you asked me how I came about deciding to channel these two yogis who, by the way, are Maharishi Mahesh, who is the founder of Transcendental Meditation, as well as Nisargadatta Maharaj, who wrote many I Am discourses and who is one of the strongest teachers, or was at the time, one of the strongest teachers of non-duality. And this is kind of, in my opinion, how it all began, at least, but there will be many other opinions on that. And both of them appear to be very, very humble about, who is the founder of what, as nothing is really new under the face of the sun. So what happened was I was attempting to channel Gurudev, who I was told, by one of these beings has reincarnated. So of course it was a little bit more difficult. I felt a very different perception and I wanted the spirit perception, and I was told he has already reincarnated. And I started to really get a handle on the being that I was talking to who told me this, and it happened to be Maharishi Mahesh. And I'm not incredibly familiar with Transcendental Meditation. I do meditate, but I have no background in Transcendental Meditation. But he had an interesting perspective and I was enjoying talking to him, and I asked him a little gentle question of, well, how does this apply to the I Am? And he said, well, from my perspective now, it's completely applies. And then another being came forth, Nisargadatta Maharaj came forth and began to talk about the I Am. And then I went over to my spiritual community and I posted, would you like to hear from one of these beings? Which one? And someone said, well, why not both? And then they both started talking to each other. And they said, sure, why not both? So, yeah. Hold on just a second. So, and then they began to talk, and their conversations, I was just a witness at that point in time, just asking some questions based upon their conversations, and they were talking about, their teachings then versus what they know now. And the conversations just were fascinating. So at your request and at their request, they decided to have some conversations between themselves and to share some of those conversations here today. And I just started thinking of different questions that I thought that they would, love to converse about, and they were on board. So this is how this occurred. It's been teaching me quite a bit. So let's go ahead and get to some of your questions and some of the questions that I came up for them as well. Just going to take a moment to look at your questions and answers section. Give me a moment. Okay. That's a really good question. One of you is asking, okay, about physical health. My daughter and I both came down with the flu and now have a terrible cough that prevents us from sleeping well, etc. What is the purpose for illness and how do we stop this? Okay, so we have Mahesh answering that. And he said the purpose of illness corresponds with the reason why you're here, to expand. Duality isn't bad if it is for the purposes of unity and if it is for the purpose of expansion. It is your imagination that causes the perception that expansion with duality is a bad thing. When you release your belief that there is suffering, then your expansion is no longer prohibited, and then there would be no further need for illness. And the other one is nodding. He said, suffering does not exist. It did not exist in my reality, and it does not exist now. That's from Maharishi Mahesh. Okay. Let's go to a different question. One of you had asked from the event page, what is their suggested path of devotion? Of course, Maharishi Mahesh had suggested transcendental meditation, and he still does. And actually, Maharaj suggested bhakti. And I found that interesting because bhakti can be produced outwardly and inwardly, and it really doesn't matter. It depends upon the unique experience of the individual. Whereas in transcendental meditation, you can produce a syllable that has literally no meaning, but in bhakti, the sounds have meaning. So I found that to be really, really interesting, that one appeared to have meaning, one modality appeared to have meaning, and one did not, and that they both produced great results of connecting to the I am. Yeah, so I like that answer there. Let's take another one of your questions. Okay, this question is for Maharishi Mahesh. From your expanded perspective on the other side of the veil, is there anything you would like to add or modify in regards to the teachings you gave while on Earth? He says, I would rather like to clarify that you may produce meaning to the syllables that you acquire and that are given to you, or you may not. At this stage, I understand that it is sound that births the soul into existence. And it is that sound, meaning or not, that will provide the greatest experience of expansion and first cause the mind to step into a clarification of sharpness and focus, at which point you will go into bliss consciousness. And as long as you stand forth in bliss consciousness, the meaning or the lack thereof is not relevant. Thank you. Okay, let's take another question. Okay, so I was having some conversations in my living room with them earlier, and I thought this question was really fascinating because it was in one of their books where someone had questioned them this, and I just found that they would give a different answer now, especially Maharaj. And the question is, in your opinion, what is one of the blocks to self-realization? Maharaj is answering, the block to self-realization is identification with your body. I stand clear in this answer as I did in my incarnation. And once you give up your identification with your body, then you are the all-time self, or the Atman only. For this, no effort is required. You only have to realize that you are not the body. Mahesh is stating, while this is true that we're not our bodies, it is also true that when one state of beingness transcends ego, one sees divine consciousness in everything. Atman is all, but the majority of humans don't see this just yet. Once they do, this transcended state of consciousness can be applied to daily living. You're right that no effort is required at this point. It's good to not deny the body, mind, or spirit consciousness. Okay. Let's take another one of your questions. That answer was so fast. Before I could even read it aloud, he had answered me. And they're like that. They're really quick and in focus. Your question was, what does my higher self want me to do? And Maharaj answered, your higher self wants you to stand forth as being And in the presence of that being, your natural state will flow. Trust your own beingness. Your knowingness will come. Okay. Let's move on to the next question. What is the most effective way to maintain the I am state? When I was discussing this with them, Maharaj answered, and he stated, when you surrender to truth, this is effective because you become an empty vessel. And no matter the path you take in your life, when you surrender to truth, ultimately at some point you reach Atman. And this is when Mahesh came forth and said, well, from my perspective, this means surrendering the brain states. Scientifically speaking, this has had a profound effect on the physical body as a natural consequence. And then he stated to me that when you transcend these brain states, your ego has no choice but to relinquish control, which allows for nothing but truth from God to flow through the body as well, naturally training it to merge with spirit. And then at some point when you do this, especially right before death, these are natural states that are going to happen. It happens before death. It happens during near-death experiences. It happens during spiritual enlightenment. But this is what can cause you to reach that state, by relinquishing the ego. Let's take another one of your questions. Why is there no spiritual movement in India? If it is there, then why are increased numbers of atrocities on lower caste minorities from majorities? Okay. Maharaj is answering that, and he states, which world do you choose to perceive? The external world of India is a shared creation within the brain consciousness states. When you choose to leave that false reality, the reality that is from the Supreme will then take over. It is not to say that this does not occur in a third dimensional reality, but which reality do you choose to operate in? There is much spiritual movement in India. Okay, Maharishi is joining in. He says, there is much movement because there is a need for expansion still. And as long as there is a need for expansion, there will be what you're choosing to call suffering. Suffering is indeed a choice. Okay, thank you. Let's take another question. I'm just trying to move through these as quickly as possible because you guys have a lot of questions. We've already got 35 open questions. Awesome. Okay, next question. What is an important quality for humankind to know about and exercise? This is a question that I asked Maharaj earlier this week, and the way that he described it to me, he just kind of sat there and he did like this, and he said, earnestness. Quite frankly, I don't even use that word. And I stated back to him, well, earnestness, is that a sincerity, like a humble desire for something? And he was nodding. And then he said that earnestness is the key to liberation, and this is the greatest practice towards any spiritual seeking. And then Maharishi Mahesh joined in and said, awareness is another important quality. And it's important to become aware of our identity as the birthless, deathless, infinite, absolute awareness. And he capitalized the A in both, absolute awareness. At which point Maharaj came forth to respond, and he said, the only true lesson in life is mistaken identity. You presume that you're individuals. Originally, you are not individuals. You are only the absolute. And when you seek awareness of the absolute, at this point, you begin a devoted practice of disidentification from your expectations in your material world. Maharishi is expanding upon that a little bit, and he said, and then you stop perceiving expansion as suffering. and they covered this a lot, the idea of our definitions of suffering, by the way. So feel free to continue to ask them questions. Okay. Next question. The world is full of stress, making life tough for all. What is the best way to protect ourselves? Maharaj is stating, when you feel the need to protect yourself, there is an arisal of fear. When you experience fear, then you attract that which you feel the need to protect yourself from. Maharishi is nodding, and he states, without the perception of fear, which is only imagined, then there would be no need for protection. I can definitely identify with these answers. I teach that in my lessons as well, that protection is really not necessary from the already liberated spirit. Okay, let's take another one. This was something that I felt compelled to ask both of them about the concept of the guru, because in a lot of my teachings, I teach that guruism is not exactly the place where we need to stand if we're giving over our power to a guru. So I had that question for them today, and I asked Maharaj, were you a devotee, or did you consider yourself an object of devotion? And both of their responses were very interesting. They both giggled a little bit. Maharaj is a little more serious, but he's always smiling, but Mahesh is constantly giggling. He is very joyful, and that state carries through even in spirit form. So Maharaj stated that he is neither. He said, I am neither. I am devotion itself. I perceive no separation. He said, when the uniting quality of love reaches a level where disunion is not possible, love then gains the value of devotion. One is devoted to the other, the devotee and the object of devotion. And this is beyond the possibility of separation. Mahesh said he valued what Maharaj was saying. And he then went on to state that he still honors his guru, even in spirit form, that he's still very much honoring his guru and watching his expansion and his reincarnation. And he states that he honors him while perceiving no separation from him, even in reincarnated form. So this is what Mahesh responded to. And he's showing me an image right now, and I believe that this is, in India, this is a bit of a ceremonial effect when a guru leaves this earth, for them to put that person's body on a floating pyre, and they burn it, and they push it off into the river. And Mahesh is telling me that he was so devoted that basically when his guru left, when Guru Dev left this earth, and when they performed that ceremony, that he literally thrust himself into the water after his guru. Like, he was so distraught, despite all of his teaching. This is how much grief can overcome temporarily. And he dove into the water and nearly drowned, trying to go for, the casket of his, and the body of Guru Dev. So devotion is pretty strong. Okay, let's take another one of your questions. I have a question about non-dualism. I've been having dreams about stepping out of the matrix and stepping into non-dualism, and I'm wondering how one can do this as a human without becoming apathetic or out of tune with one's emotions. Maharishi Mahesh is responding to this one, and he states, even in the mind of the guru, and in your guru's living now, he's mentioning Gandhi particularly, there can be no separation from the expansion within emotion. Dualism isn't necessarily negative. You can choose to allow a positive perception from expansion if you do not go into suffering. Again, this is not about being apathetic or cutting off your emotions. You simply go deeper into your heart center until you expand from this emotion. You do not lose your connection with it or remain apathetic about it. Apathy is a very dangerous response. You may perceive it as lacking in emotion, but it is beyond grief. It is deeper than grief, and it is dangerous. Apathy will not occur neither in transcendental meditation or within the I Am practices. Apathy is a projection of a deeper mental response that requires healing. Notice and stand in your awareness of what requires healing. Apathy is not bliss consciousness and does not occur in my practice or in any practice of the being who meditates. And if you perceive that it does, stand in your mind temporarily, go deeper into your heart center and expand from this emotion and go into the truth that it is. Apathy is not truth. Apathy is lack. Okay, let's go into another question. Thank you. I had asked the question, what can I do to take care of the earth? And it was Maharaj who answered me, so I thought I would share this with you. I asked this a couple days ago, and he said, well, without you, there is no earth. You know all about earth, but you know very little about yourself. Could you care for yourself first, as you are the tool that then can care for the earth? Humans are suffering from acute misapprehension. Clarify your minds, purify your hearts, sanctify your lives. This is the quickest way to change your earth, your world. Okay, let's take another question from your list. Okay, I think that this is a question for Mahesh because it asks about transcendental meditation. In these new times and new energy, do you still recommend transcendental meditation, and what if we cannot afford it? But Mahesh is answering. He said, the concept from your imagination, when you say, I cannot afford it, is coming from lack. And within this principle, there is fear. And this would stand to be true if this is your belief. That was a harsh response. Give me a second. So Mahesh is backing it up a little, and he said, these are not new times. These are not new energies. This has been and will be and forever is. I will recommend transcendental meditation, but I will recommend any form of meditation that brings forth the sound that birth your soul into existence. Because when you connect to that sound, and whether or not you apply a meaning, as stated previously, is not going to be of essence. Simply perform and stand forth in whatever meditation works for you. Sound, and especially within bhakti, is highly recommended for any time. One of you asked on the event page to Maharishi Mahesh this question: what were your intentions for bringing transcendental meditation into the world? And he answers, I wish to revive spiritual tradition in India, to show that meditation is for everyone, to show that Vedanta is compatible with science. Maharaj is responding a little bit to that, and he says, I don't believe tradition is important if it is applied religiously. Sacred tradition and devotion is still important in India and always will be. And he states he's giving a thanks to Mahesh for agreeing to make this distinction. And he's saying, science mattered not to me in my incarnation, as it is contrived by the physical, but I can now address that your divine nature attended to science as compatible with spirit. And this too I can attest is pure truth. Oh, they're commending each other. That's cute. Let's move forth into one of your questions. The question is, I know there are reasons for everything. I personally appreciate TM, but what is the reason behind the negativity surrounding TM with some? Mahesh says, as with any process in a dualistic environment, some will meet this process as a perception from their imaginations of evil or of good. This is the nature of duality, and this occurs within any modality. Yes, it is fear-based. Maharaj is adding on a little, and he's stating that whenever you ask a human being to inquire about the true self, and he capitalizes the S, there will be fear. And this is natural. Fear does not have to be a negative experience. Fear can be the key to unlocking a greater understanding if you release its attachment within your imagination that it would require suffering. Thank you. Here's another question that I found interesting that came from the event page. How can humanity truly be successful in this third dimensional duality-based environment? It was Mahesh who answered this one for me just a few days ago, and he stated that when he was in human form, he'd have answered that person that being happy is important. But he also stated, what I've learned since then is that happiness is joy. It is bliss consciousness. Success in anything is through joy and through bliss consciousness. Under all circumstances, simply be joyful. Consider any negativity that comes at you as a raindrop falling into the ocean of your blissful joy. Maharaj then responded to him when I asked this question, and he said, I agree. Joy is one of the highest states of mindfulness one can hold in human form. Joy lifts all negative emotional states instantly. And then he said to Maharishi, is this why you laugh so much even now? And Maharishi responded, and he said, why, yes, you provide me much to laugh with. So I found that cute, like a little poking jokes at each other experience that I wrote down to share with you from yesterday's interactions with them. Okay. A good question about ascension. Are some people not meant to open their third eye because they opted to have a total, complete human experience this time? I don't seem to be able to open my third eye, so I wonder if this is the reason. Maharaj is answering you, and he states, why in your perception would you choose to believe that your enlightenment requires operation through any of your chakra systems? If you are built uniquely to expand in a certain way, and if this is not your modality, then choose another. Or perhaps greater yet, we just switched to Maharaj, or greater yet, choose no modality. What if no modalities were necessary? If your modality causes suffering, then it is not necessary. Okay, now we're back to Maharishi. And he says, if you believe that you have opted not to have a total human experience, why do you associate this with an opening or closing of any portion of your etheric being? You can have a total human experience in your incarnation in any way that you choose, but when you define totality in this limited fashion, then in your imagination, you create limitation. Thank you. Of course, you guys knew I would ask them this because I teach about life purpose. Yesterday, I asked Mahesh, what is the purpose of life? Because I thought that you guys would be really interested in his answer. And he stated to me that he felt both now and when he was in his incarnated existence that the purpose is enlightenment. And he said, just please don't place your stakes on trivial matters, but only on the greater consciousness. And that alone is the purpose. Mahesh stated, release selfishness and step into service with compassion. Being helpful is the purpose. Maharaj responded that the purpose is expansion and growth. At which point he said to me, please strive to lose concern with all that is unreality. Your human's concern for the future is the true issue with life on earth that prevents enlightenment. This is due to fear of pain, when you judge that pain is wrong, and desire for pleasure, when you judge that pleasure is good. To the true enlightened guru, all is bliss. He is happy with whatever comes. At which point Mahesh responded to me and he said, yes, acceptance of all. This is a true path to liberation. Within the mind of mortals, there are many things that one may perceive would cause human misery. And he asked Maharaj a question and he said, would you say that this is also true to human thinking? And Maharaj answered, but I couldn't pronounce what he said. So I'm just going to have to spell it, but I believe he meant to the truth seeker, because I asked him what this word meant, and he said the seeker of light, the seeker of truth. He says it's pronounced like canyon. Hold on. Oh, jnani. That's what he said. He said the jnani often has many difficulties, true, but this does not lead to his suffering. And truly there is nothing wrong with the world. Evil is in the eyes of the perceiver. It is in your imagination that this can lead you into thinking that the world is unjust and unfair. And without imagination, there is no world. The imagination can also be a tool that beckons a desire for expansion. Expansion is the reason why you incarnate. And this was from Maharaj. Mahesh then began to respond to him, and this is when an interesting conversation has come into place, and they're still talking about it now. So we're just going to continue a little bit here with this purpose and expansion conversation. Mahesh is stating that the world is indeed different when we perceive it without the filter of either fear or desire. So again, back to the duality stuff. Maharaj is responding and he said, I lived my life according to my natural patterns. I ran a meditation class in the morning. I gave lectures and discussions regularly. We met for worship service twice a day, and we had devotional singing in the evening. And this was convenient for working people in a society with many, many obligations. This routine in life is inevitable, so please do not bore of it. Find sacred nature in the structure of routine, because boredom comes from an unhealed mind state. Again, from Maharaj. Okay, and Mahesh is stating that everything moves according to the laws of your nature. They're agreeing a little bit while having some simultaneous conversations about that. And he states there's no need for anyone to enforce natural laws. At this point, there would be no need for policing, because you're in a state of peace. And as every action creates a reaction, which balances and neutralizes action, life occurs, but there's this canceling out, if you will, of what you perceive as evil. And then in the end, all is absolute. And then it would be as if no evil really occurred. Maharaj is responding a little bit, and he says, some of you have said to me in my incarnation that destiny is immutable based upon God's divine plan, that every second of the human existence is predetermined. Others have stated to me that pure accident and coincidence decides everything. And yet even more have claimed that life is determined by a pattern laid out before birth, which is in according to an even higher divine calling. My experience is that any or all of this can be chosen in the moment of your belief. Maharishi is expanding, and he says, I still believe that humanity may have life as they prefer it. One can diminish a pattern in one's life, or one may see only a chain of coincidences or accidents. My explanations only please your human brains, but they need not be true to any individual, as truth is relative to each individual's earthly experience. And Mahesh says, precisely, reality is undefinable and indescribable. We do not wish to evade questions about reality, but together we are here to help you understand that true reality is hard to describe to one who lives in a third-dimensional perception. Maharaj is corresponding to follow up a little, and he says, many of you refuse to believe in our teachings that the universe is indeed formless and chaotic. The question I was asked most often when alive in my incarnation is, why does it need to be chaotic? And Mahesh is responding to say, while it is true that objectively this universe has an orderly and divinely beautiful structure, the world of the yogi is absolutely liberated and has always been. Everything within our worlds, when incarnated and now, is absolutely self-determined. All happens by itself naturally. There is order in our worlds too, but it's not imposed from the outside. It occurs spontaneously due to its timelessness. Maharaj is responding, and he states, I'd like to address that my secret, as you called it, was that my belief that perfection is not something to obtain became the cornerstone for creation of my own future. I believed that I didn't need to long for the future because perfection is in the now. Thereby, anything created stood forth from my now. Mahesh is responding, and he said, please hear us that there is nothing wrong in your world. It is your thinking that causes for belief in separation, and from this belief, the disasters that you call war and suffering are created by you. Maharaj now, he states, what you call evil is the duality that is born from selfishness. Selfishness is the root of all evil. Greed is the source of most corruptions in your world. You are here to serve, and simply put, to be helpful. This is a collective divine purpose in humanity. From this, all of your unique individual purposes arise. Okay, let's take another one of your questions. They are loading up pretty fast. This is to Nisargadatta Maharaj. Would you still say I leave my human form to unfold according to its nature? I remain as I am. If so, doesn't that take away from the little amount of free will we have while on this earth to help co-create a better inner and outer reality? He states you are creating separation from your imagination of inner and outer reality. They are but one. All forms of will are one, and they are intact and have always been. There is nothing lacking. Your question implies lack, which means that your creation will also be lacking. Stand forth from your perception of lack. Okay. Another question that was interesting from the event page is, what is love? And Mahesh is choosing to answer that first. And he said, love is the supreme content of life. Love is an expression that is sweet, powerful, and sublime. Life expresses itself through love. So Maharaj's answer, life is love and love is life. What keeps the body together but love? What is desire but the love of the self? Even if you fear, you must love someone or yourself enough in order to protect. What is knowledge but the love of truth? Even when form is incorrect, the meaning and motive behind is always love. If you see yourself in everyone and everyone in yourself, then you love. Realize that you are the eternal source. Such acceptance is true love. Another good question, someone asked on the event page, how do you suggest we practice TM specifically? And his answer to that is create a sound or have one assigned to you in a sacred manner. This sound will have no personal meaning to you. It will be a syllable. Practice the recitation of it in your mind until your thoughts become calmer and then more clear, and you will naturally slip into bliss consciousness. Maharaj's answer is, as you were birthed into this universe by sound, sound is the way you reach light, or as you have called it, enlightenment. Okay, let's take another question. How do you feel about living primarily on prana? Can anyone tap into this alternative system of nourishment? Mahesh is answering and he says, dare we call this alternative? This is truth. You can thrive on any form of sustenance you choose if you are one with your body to understand its needs and that it understands yours. And you are one. You can thrive on any sense, any source of nourishment that you choose. Okay, one of you sent me a message today to ask about samadhi. And the question is, how do I go into samadhi? So we wrote that down to answer. Mahesh is stating, if you're in the right state, whatever arises in your path will put you into samadhi. Sound is the quickest path to this, and this is why I taught TM. Maharaj is saying samadhi is not unattainable. It is not some strange foreign thing. When the mind is passionately interested, it flows in unity with the object of interest. Mahesh follows up. He states, at once the seer and the seen become one in their observing. The hearer and the heard become one in hearing. The lover and the loved become one in their loving. Any experience you choose can be grounds for samadhi. Thank you. Let's take another one of your questions. Okay, that's a good question. I have forgotten the pitch of the sound provided by my Transcendental meditation teacher. Is it okay to use another pitch? Mahesh is stating, while it is the sacred ceremony during which this syllable is given to you individually, if you have forgotten, there is a good reason. And certainly at this point, I would suggest choose another. This is not a teaching that would be applicable on earth. However, if you have forgotten, it means that you have transcended the state in which it was needed to begin. Okay, there you go. Yes, change your pitch. Surprising answer, honestly. Here's another question that one of you texted to me this morning. Can one believe himself to be realized and be wrong about this assumption? Mahesh stepped forth to answer a little bit, and what he said to me this morning was, yes, the idea that I am realized is in and of itself a mistake, because there is no such thing as I am this or I am that in the natural state of the absolute. Okay, let's take another one of your questions. What is the non-duality perspective on self-love's role in abandonment situations? Okay, Maharaj is answering this, and he says, what have you chosen in your imagination to define when you say abandonment? What is abandonment, and is it possible that you can be abandoned? In the state of the absolute, you are source. In this reflection of what you perceive to be abandonment, what is it that you feel you lack? This is a call for love. And yes, this is a call for self-love. And Mahesh says abandonment is indeed simply a perception. Perhaps in the state of your higher self, in this absolute state, you cause for the abandonment. In your higher self state, you knew that this situation wasn't in your highest and best. That's an interesting perception. Okay. One of you texted in this question this morning, and I thought it was interesting because Maharaj taught about eliminating the self, like the lower S self. And the question is, what does it mean to eliminate the self? How can this even occur? This appears to be metaphysical acrobatics, is what she said to me. Okay, so he's stating what you need is an earnest longing for reality. We call this Atma Bhakti, the love of the Supreme, or Moksha Sankalpa, the determination to be free from all that is false. Without the will inspired by love, nothing can be done to eliminate the self. There must be love and relation between the being who says I am and the observer of that I am. As long as the observer, the inner self, considers himself separate from the observed, the lower self loathes and condemns it, and the situation is still hopeless. It's only when the observer accepts the person as a projection of himself and becomes one by taking the self into the self. And this lowercase self on the first one, uppercase on the second one. The duality of the I and this perpetuates, and the identity of the outer and the inner, the supreme reality, then manifests itself. Mahesh is following up with, this union of the seer and the seen happens when the seer becomes conscious of himself as the seer, as opposed to merely being interested in the seen, which he is anyhow. He is also interested in being interested. He is aware of being aware. Loving awareness is the key that brings true reality into being. Another question from you in the questions and answers section. What is the difference between transcending duality and still caring and taking action? Like in politics, Trump, Illuminati, etc., or in personal life, like with an ex, etc. He said this question, this is Maharaj, he said the question in and of itself stands in duality. Because when you believe that you must transcend something, then you believe that there is something negative you can stand in the Atman and still take care and take action. This is the responsible thing to do. And you are loving yourself enough to stand in this accountability and responsibility. But the difference is when you state, there is something bad and I must take care and I must take action to avoid an inevitable bad. And Maharishi is nodding a little. Okay, thank you. Let's take another question. The question is, you have stated many times that the body defines the outer self. Since you both had incarnated bodies, does that mean that you also had or have an outer self? Maharaj responds first, and he states, I would have if I were attached to my body and took it to be myself. Mahesh states, I was aware of my body and attended to its needs, yes, but the body appears in one's mind. And in my mind, a body is not divine reality, simply put. Maharaj says, and precisely I was conscious of not having a body in my supreme reality. Thank you. One of my guides just popped into this conversation and pokes a question at Maharaj. Of course, Khan would present this question because Khan is a smart butt. He says, no offense, Yogi Maharaj, but you smoked, which means you had a body. I didn't know he smoked, so this is interesting to me. Oh. Maharaj is stating, right, and many saw me smoking. So determine for yourself how you noticed me smoking, and you will realize that it is your I am the body state of mind that is responsible for this I see you smoking idea. Khan's going like this. Let's move on to another one of your questions. A question about soulmates. Okay. I know soulmates are here to both nourish and challenge each other. I have this with one of mine, but I sometimes have the fear, whether rational or not, that I may lose this soulmate. Is this possible in general? Maharaj states anything is possible. This is the state of mind that occupies the frequency of wonder. And this can choose a state of positivity, negativity, or neutrality. I have to stop because I was just teaching this last week and I completely agree with him. That's all I needed to say. He continues, decide whether or not your fear is helpful and useful or not. If your fear is helpful and useful, then it becomes discernment, and this is wisdom. And then what would you do? Is this your higher self choosing to lose this soulmate? Mahesh states, the rational mind cannot supersede supreme reality. Never has, never will. What you choose to believe, and this can be a dangerous choice, will likely be the outcome. Stand forth and choose for a positive belief. Thank you. Another question from the event page, and I thought it was a really, really good one. Here it is. There is the body and there is myself. I see what you're teaching. I know my body, but apart from my body, what am I? Maharaj is answering and he states, well, there is no I that is separate from the body or your world. The three appear and disappear in unison, and at the root is the I am. Go beyond it. The idea of I am not the body is just an antidote for the idea I am the body. So which is false? What is that I am? Unless you know yourself, what else can you know? Mahesh is following up a little, and he says, then one may conclude that without the body there can be no liberation. If the idea, I am not the body, leads to liberation, the presence of the body is quite essential, is it not? They're questioning each other. This is fun. Maharaj is stating, yes, that's quite right. Without the body, how can the idea, I am not the body, even come into presence? The idea, I am free, is as false as the idea, I am in bondage. Once you find the I am and common to both, go beyond this even. All is a dream only. Okay. Let's take some more of your questions. We have a little bit more time, so I'm going to go through them because it looks like we still have 71. Doesn't your work contradict one of the 4 truths of Buddhism? Life is suffering. Maharaj says, the truth of supreme reality is that all contradictions are false. The idea that anything can contradict another, this is the false reality. Therefore, if there is a contradiction in the belief that there is suffering, consider that this is confusion, and confusion is not real. So is this teaching real for you at this moment if you are confused? Is any teaching real for you in the moment of the now if you are confused? This does not make for right or wrong. This simply means that you are not ready for this teaching if you choose to believe in suffering. Is meditation the key to enlightenment? Mahesh is wanting to answer that. And he states, meditation is key to the initial clarity and focus of your mind, and it brings to you a sharp state of discernment that is noteworthy. But going beyond this into bliss consciousness, no matter the form of meditation, is the key to what you call enlightenment. And within this illumination stands the presence and unity of all. So yes, meditation. He's saying yes, meditation is the key. But what I believe that he's trying to say based upon our conversations this week is that there are stages to meditation. And the way he described transcendental meditation to me is that initially it brings you into your thoughts so that your thoughts are no longer an enemy. They are your friend. You become just really sharp in your thoughts. And yes, there's some acute discernment, and you begin to trust that acute discernment. At which point all becomes quiet, and then you begin to feel, when you really stand forth into TM, you begin to feel your state of bliss consciousness, which that is the key to enlightenment. But initially your thoughts become clear, and then they depart, and then you go deeper into bliss. Initially it just doesn't work that way. It takes some time. The next question is everything based on perception? Both of them are nodding. For example, if we see violence is bad, then violence will be bad. Yes, they're both nodding. How can I stay fully present at work? Maharaj is stating, if you are not fully present in any activity, is this activity in your highest and best interest? Thank you. He is the king of rhetorical questions. We've been doing this all day. I'll ask him a question and he'll send a question back to me. Another question, then bhakti equals service. Both are nodding. Next question, how do we release feelings of deep betrayal by ones we trusted the most? I know the lesson, and I am focusing on that, but still having a hard time wanting justice, an apology, or something. Mahesh is responding, and he said, stand in the initial need for forgiveness. Forgiving this person initially, and then forgiving yourself. Find out what actions require forgiveness on your behalf. Maharaj says, go beyond this at that point. Initially, one must identify in order to disidentify, but then stand beyond this perception by understanding that you are perfect. Source is perfect. And then at this point, if Source is perfect, can this person's actions extend in a role that help you and serve you in the highest and best expansion of your form? Would that being's content serve you? When they betray you, could it be possible that they are serving your need for expansion? Thank you. Let's look at another question. Should we meditate with open eyes or closed eyes? Which way is more beneficial? Mahesh states, while I would have stated in my incarnation that having your eyes closed will be more beneficial, this is an individual answer, and this is unique to each being. Initially, if you have not assumed the practice of disidentification, then it would be more helpful to close your eyes, but only initially. You'll find an interesting response in your enlightenment if you meditate with eyes open, but only after full disidentification from the body state, which many have not done. Another question, what will happen to humans in March of 2017? Maharaj states, what do you believe will happen in your unique reality? From my vision, I see many happenings occurring in groups of human conscious collectives. Some will perceive that nothing is happening and this energetic effect will be subtle. Others will perceive a greater event, but it is an emotional event from your hearts, which clarify your minds. This is not a catastrophic event. That's a good clarification, thank you. Let's take another one of your questions. I haven't been sick or even with a cold for over 7 years and I can't understand why. Is that spiritually related since illness is for expansion? Mahesh is shaking his head and laughing and he said, and you complain why? They do poke a little bit of fun, guys, sorry. Maharaj states, the need for expansion from the body has ceased for you at this moment in time. Thank you. Let's take another question. Do either one of them plan to incarnate here again? Mahesh states, at this point, I still am in service to my guru, which stands to figure that yes, I would incarnate again because he did. Maharaj states, I find no need. In regards to both masters, what is your suggestion for those who follow blind rituals created by priestdom in almost all religions? How can we work with or on them if need to awaken them? I don't understand your question. I'm sorry, but I'm going to let them take over. You can clarify in chat if you wish. I'm watching. Okay, Mahesh is stating, this was a concern I had in my incarnation that many around the world would perceive the Transcendental meditation modality as a religion, and this was never my intention. I wanted unity and peace, and this was my gift. This was my tool that I offered for such purposes, and it was a concern. Maharaj is stating, if anyone is choosing blind rituals, as you call it, created by religion, would this then serve them? If they are standing in this modality for expansion and they choose this, you cannot help someone whose choice would appear to be negative, if you choose it to be negative. Why do you wish to awaken them, is my question to you. If they choose to awaken within a modality, how can we judge that modality as positive or negative? If they ask for your help, yet they cling to what you perceive as negative and they believe that it is negative, then you simply ask them to relieve themselves of the belief in that modality and with the belief of religion. But religion is a modality that's created, that's based upon belief in separation. And if any human or group of humans continues to attach to the belief in separation, then no expansion can occur. But they are blind to this fact. Okay, next question. We are given a life purpose to fulfill, and they say that they don't give us more than we can handle. Maharaj just interrupted you and said, who is they? You are one. You do not give yourself more than you can handle. Let's continue with your question. What if they don't give us the means, the resources to fulfill our task? Do our guides, angels, etc. have no clue on what it takes to live and be a part of society on earth? Mahesh is giggling at you. And Maharaj states, there is no such concept that you would not have all that is necessary to be here. There is no such concept. If you are here, you have the means within you and the resources. You are responsible for creating those resources, and that responsibility falls on you and you alone. Find the resources, go deeper, create the resources. If you feel you do not have resources, then you feel lack. If you feel lack, then you likely align with fear and powerlessness. Guides, the perception of guides, angels, as you call them, they are not in charge of you. They do not take charge over you. They do not require to have a clue of what it takes to live because this is within your choice. Microphone, okay. Hang on, I'm blowing up my mic. Let me see if I can ground it out. Hopefully that is working. I'm going to assume that it is. I'm waiting on management to confirm that I can. Okay, we're good. Back to what they're saying about guides, just in case you missed that, the person was saying, do guides, angels, etc. have no clue on what it takes to live and be a part of society? Mahesh, no, it was Maharaj, yes. Okay. He's stating they, guides, angels, etc. The word they is a perception that you are separate from source. No one has charge over you. Angels do not require to know what it takes for you as a creator being to live in the society that you create. You alone hold charge of this knowledge. Thank you. I know, someone said when she speaks of higher beings, the sound always blows. It happens every time. Sorry. Maharishi, could you please explain what is meant by the upcoming earth shift? He said, I perceive no shift. How is the massive rise of collective consciousness and how will this be taking place? Maharaj states we are not rising within the collective consciousness. You stand forth in charge of your own individual ascension. This is your individual responsibility. Together, the collective has already and is already perfect. Together, we are already on heaven. Nice. Let's move on to the next question. Regarding Vedic astrology, I'm shaking my head because I knew this would come up. Are we locked into what our birth charts state, or can we rise above the unwanted aspects of the birth chart? Maharaj states, the perception that any definition of who I am locks you in is a duality-based perception. This is simply an observation of who you are at one level. Who are you on all levels? You are infinite. You cannot be confined or restricted. I love that answer. Thank you. Can you please clarify what it means to surrender? Mahesh states, you surrender to needs, whether they be your bodily needs. And this is an act of meditation that is profound and difficult. And this is why I created Transcendental Meditation, because it almost appeared too profound and too difficult to observe, much less to complete. My guru and many taught that one must release all needs in the ancient yogi traditions and in the definitions of meditation that pertain to the Gita. Meditation meant to release bodily needs for food, for sex, for anything external. I did not and still do not believe that this is the definition of full surrender, hence leading to one's enlightenment. Maharaj states, it simply means surrendering to your need to separate. You release your need for separation. You are addicted to the concept of separation. Thank you. I'm gonna have to think on that one a little longer. It's pretty simple. Maharaj is simple, but he's very profound. How can I get out of my head and into my heart and spirit? Mahesh is answering, and he states, remember, you are birthed by sound. Find your sacred tone, your sacred sound, your sacred syllable. It has no meaning in your logical perceptions, but it awakens your entire essence. There is no need for the scattered nature of the brain, and he does like this, when the sound completes your essence. You are reminded of your birth, your divinity, and then nothing else matters. This is bliss consciousness. Next question. Does Maharishi Mahesh consider Transcendental Meditation a form of Kriya? He states, at the time I did not. I would not at that time have connected my form of meditation to any other modality, but at this time I believe that they are quite similar. And they can always be quite similar, but one must expand within each. What is the purpose of my life? I have many struggles with this. Maharaj states, humans are seeking meaning. What does this mean? What does that mean? Why do sufferings occur? What is this? What is that? It simply is. You are here to be helpful. You are here to be compassionate. You are here to serve. And if you are standing forth within this, then this is the purpose. Any individual purposes are choices only. I believe he's trying to say you have to create your individual purpose and believe in that creation. They're nodding. Maharaj states it goes beyond belief even. It simply is. Is love the only truth? Is the next question. Mahesh states, absolutely. Love is each portion, each stream within a river, each small molecule within the wave that is within an ocean even. Love is all, and of course it is the only truth. Love is at the core of everything. Maharaj states, in our universe, yes, and other universes, there are even deeper concepts that go beyond love. They are not anything that you or anyone who is incarnated can grasp or understand. How do I recognize and trust signals from source? Maharaj states, again, by releasing the belief that you are separate from source. Would there even be a need for a signal? Why would you signal yourself? You simply do, because you are. He talks a lot with his hands, and then I do it too. Music is my calling, I feel. How does one best nourish this gift and try to pursue it in a world that is not very heart-centered, considering the music environment in the Western world? Mahesh states, then change and be the catalyst for the music environment in the Western world. Maharaj states, consider the definition of what is bad about your environment. Is this serving you? Can it not catalyze you to expand past your belief in restriction and limitation? Let me take another one, hang on. Just scrolling through for a second to find the one they want. Is everything perfect? Maharaj is nodding. They're both okay, they're both nodding, except Mahesh is saying, if you believe that it is. Does the world need to change? Mahesh states, in my incarnation, I had many beliefs that the world needed changing. I now apply to the belief and knowledge that all is perfect, all is beautiful, all is based upon our incessant need to expand. Therefore, why would anything be changed? Okay, she proceeds with her question to state, if everything is perfect, where does motivation come from to help others? Maharaj states, in the spiritually evolved individual, motivation to help extends from compassion and love and is always truth. It is there naturally, and it is necessary and perfect, as is what you believe would be suffering. That is perfect because it creates the environment for expansion. Taking another question, give me a moment. Is it true that women of light are awakening all over the world at this time more than any other time, or is it just my perception? Maharaj states, awakening has occurred, already has occurred, is occurring, will always occur, and this is the purpose of expansion and has always been. It is not more than any time, but there are steps to this, and you are in a highly evolved step that is necessary for your collective expansion as you believe that you need collective expansion. Therefore, many individuals are reflecting each other's needs to expand within your divine feminine consciousness. What is the best way to teach awareness to others? Maharaj states, awareness is only the first step. Just by observing, again, when the seer becomes the seen. And then there, Mahesh goes forth and he says, and the hearer becomes the heard and the lover becomes the loved. The best way to teach awareness is by observing the person and observing yourself. Is there any spiritual practice that we can use to help alleviate mental and physical illness in others? Maharaj is answering and he states, illness is necessary for expansion. Why would you take away this gift? Why do you perceive illness as bad? Why would you want to take away their gift of expansion in their chosen form thereof. Their soul does not wish for alleviation, as their higher self does not experience suffering. Mahesh is coming forth and he states, meditation, awareness of the perfection of the body, even in its state of illness, is the key. And in any modality in which this occurs, this is what is true. Okay, next question. There is so much negativity. How are we to help others? Wait a minute, I don't understand your question. You can clarify. It was Karuna who made this question. I'm watching the chat if you would like to clarify. Mahesh is stating, again, with the belief that something is negative, this is restricting your expansion. All forms of expansion are necessary. All feelings are necessary for your growth, and you are here to grow. Okay. Another question about meditation state. When entering a state of emptiness and nothingness, sometimes it's like being pulled deep inside with vision within, in contrast to other times when I don't understand your question. I'm going to repeat this. When entering a state of emptiness and nothingness, sometimes it's like being pulled deep inside with vision within, in contrast to other times when it is as if I am taken outside the body. Okay, it was just a typo. When I am taken outside the body and seeing and knowing outside the body. Can you comment or expand on these opposing experiences? Okay, Mahesh is answering this and he states, again, there are steps you unfold in your meditations. Initially, there is a clarity of the mind. And when you are stepping outside of the body and seeing and knowing outside of the body, then you have reached bliss consciousness. Prior to then, there is an initial state of sharpness of thought, thoughts fall off, and then there is an emptiness. You settle. In this state of what I call the settling, the state of emptiness and nothingness will pull you through another expansion that is even greater. Be patient with yourself. Transcending takes time. For many, it takes an entire lifetime. This does not mean you are doing it wrong. What is a healthy way to get our egos to surrender without the near-death experiences or death? Maharaj is answering, and he states, releasing judgment and criticism of yourself and others is the quickest way to allow your ego to surrender. Mahesh is following up and he says, the awareness of allowance is the state of natural flow through which the ego will diminish on its own after release of judgment. Yes. Thank you. Eating meat. On the subject of eating meat, can we clean the energy associated with the animal's life and death? Can we heal them from possible sufferings they experienced after the fact? Mahesh states, I was definitely a vegetarian, and I did not believe at that time that it would be possible to cleanse their experiences and choices, because it is the nature of the animal kingdom to have those experiences and choices. Therefore, why would I take it away from them? However, I did not choose to partake. And if I should incarnate again, I will not choose to partake. Maharaj states, this is a perception again of good and bad. You are judging yourselves, and you are even judging the animals' experiences. You are judging that they would need and require healing. This judgment is causing for separation. Okay. Well, guys, I believe we should wrap up. I have really enjoyed this experience. Again, I'm Pamela Aaralyn. For those of you who don't know me, you can find me at aurareader.com. And feel free to reach out and say hello or schedule some individual time with me. I really, really enjoyed this. This was a very unique experience. And I've never really had a channeling where two people chose to come in advance. People had popped in before, but they rarely have conversations with each other. So I really enjoyed this, and I hope that all of you come back. I hope you have a blessed Saturday afternoon. Namaste.